Hello and welcome to the TA UK Peer-to-Peer podcast. I'm joined today by Dan Brownhill and Tom Constable. Guys, thank you for making time out of your busy diary to join us today.
Pleasure.
Quite welcome.
So we're here to talk about the self-employed model. So big question is, there's lots of self-employed models out there. Why do you guys decide to go with TA UK?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm quite a methodical person and I've done a lot of research, whether it's buying a car, going on holiday. I would look at all the reviews and things. So I looked at 5 different models within the self-employed, I suppose, estate agency world. I narrowed it down to 2. And I was attracted to the Agency UK. I heard Steph on a podcast last January and I thought, quite like the sound of that. There's real passion there. And we had a chat. I think it was Easter Friday, back in 2023 it would have been. And the time that she spent to talk to me, I was on the phone for like an hour and a half. I think the branding is absolutely exceptional. I just loved the way that she was wanting to take the business, all about being not the biggest, but the best, and having the best agents within the agency to sort of grow it. She introduced me to people like Tom, who I think we're quite sort of similar backgrounds and things. And yeah, other models that I'd spoken to, they just weren't my cup of tea, should we say. I just thought the branding was just excellent. And I thought it would sit perfectly where I am in Cheshire.
Tom, how about yourself?
And I think coincide with what Dan said, really. For me, the attraction was about not being the biggest self-employed brokerage, but being the best. And again, when I spoke to whether it was Steph or whether it was Andy or whether it was Mark, the founders, it was about we want to build things properly rather than just bums on seats. So It was about being the best in class rather than the biggest in class.
So what were some of the things you looked at that made you feel that you would be the best you could possibly be with the Agency UK and not with another self-employed brokerage?
So simple things like the branding, the website, the agents that were on board already. Again, looking at some of their profiles, looking at some of the stock they were carrying, looking at some of the marketing that was there, and then again talking about some of the prop tech that was available. The support was available as a community.
Yeah, I agree with that. The amount of tech that is at your fingertips within the Agency UK is just absolutely phenomenal. I thought I'd learn a lot being 20 years on the high street, but the amount I've learned in the 7 months I've been here and all the stuff that you can access is just absolutely incredible.
And so how does that stuff help you in your day-to-day business then? 'Cause it's great to have these sort of features, and it is this prop tech and this prop tech sort of thing. But what's the actual benefit to yourselves at the end of the day?
The benefit that you have, I mean, I'm a big fan of home search. So when you're sort of doing your reports, whether it's evaluation or there's obviously data on there where you can sort of really home into the search of somebody wanting to find a property. So home search is great at home.co.uk. Again, it's a bit of an archaic website, but never heard of it before I joined the agency. And that's just got so much data. So I cover sort of Poynton, type in Poynton, and it has data that goes back to 1995, is that correct? And it looks at valuations of homes. It has a monthly newsletter, which is great for my monthly news, my videos that I post out every month. So there's lots of the data in there is absolutely, it's really important. It works out average selling prices from 3 months ago to back to 1995. So that, for me, those two really are fantastic, but there's so much more, isn't there?
I think the short version of what Dan just said is
straight to the point.
Sorry.
Knowledge is power, right?
Correct.
So again, whether you're using home search, whether you're using Sprift, whether you're using some of the other kind of tools that are out there, it's about becoming the most knowledgeable agent in your location. And I think that's where those bits of tech, those tools can kind of help build what you've already built yourself.
Let's talk about the Agency UK as a network. So it seems like quite a close-knit family from what I can see, and everyone seems to talk to each other quite a lot and share advice and share sort of pointers here and there. Is that the case?
I think for me, again, it's as much or as little as you want of that. Some people like to work very individually on their own basis. Other people like to be on the phone to somebody else every other day, kind of trying to get that support. So I think it's the best of both worlds. I think there's some really good high caliber agents in the network. Everyone's got their own expertise. Everyone's got their own bits of experience. So there are a handful of agents that I speak to fairly regularly. There are other agents that I don't speak to at all until it comes to kind of a face-to-face conference. So I think it's that network's there to kind of leverage it as much or as little as you want to.
Yeah, I'd second that. It's one of my worries and concerns was, coming from the high street where you've got that office banter, What did you have for your tea? Did you watch Love Island last night? Did you watch Liverpool, Hammer, Manchester United, all that, those types of things? When you... Pardon?
I said, oi.
Yeah. I know that happens, does it?
Are you a United fan?
I'm a Man United fan.
I used to be a Man United fan when I was younger as well, to be
used to
fair.
be.
So,
Yeah,
when Peter Schmeichel left, I left.
A lot of people used to be. Anyway, I lost my train of thought now.
I think going back to that, I mentioned before, didn't I, about there's lots of agents with their own areas of expertise within the group. So again, one of the things that I found really useful fairly early on is I'd never sold a house over kind of £750,000. But I was looking at people like Dan Woods in London or like Jonathan Crawford-Jones and thinking, well, they're selling those regularly. So guess what? I'll pick up the phone and have a chat to them and just say, how do you prospect for that business? How do you sell that kind of business? You look at Dan, he's very good on his video content. So again, pick up the phone and say, Dan, you're doing video. How do you get that confident in front of a camera? You look at Mia, and Mia's built a really good business based on social media up in Liverpool. And it's a case of, again, trying to use those people with their own expertise and thinking, how can I get into a bit of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So you mentioned you were kind of shopping around when it came to going self-employed. So what were some of the key points you looked for in the brokerage you decided to go with that you thought, I need to tick those boxes off?
I think for me, it was never at any point did I feel pressured to making that decision. Again, I know some of the larger, more American models, it's a bums on seats kind of exercise again. Yeah. So there's a constant recruitment strategy. There's a constant, we need more agents on board. And again, the more agents that come on board, the more kind of diluted the brand becomes. So from the conversations I had with Steph and the conversation I had with Andy, it was never a case of you have to work for us. It was a case of these are the reasons why you should work for us or why we'd like you to work for us, but go away and have a think about things. If you decide it's the right model for you, then we'd love to have you on board. If you decide to go elsewhere, then we respect that decision. Dan?
Yeah, I'd agree. There was always never any pressure to join the agency, which is what I liked, because it's not as I said, very methodical and do lots of research. It did take me quite a while to sort of leap into, right, let's go and do it. Whereas other models, I think it is just sort of a bums on seat recruitment. And I felt very as though sort of Steph had her arm around me, looking after me, going, take your time. Any more questions, give me a call, give me a WhatsApp, and things like that. And then there was a financial backing as well, which generally helps in the first couple of months, because you leave the high street to be self-employed. It's, where's my next paycheck coming from?
Sure.
You sell a house, it's going to be, within week one, it's probably rare. So it's going to be at least between 6 and 9 months before you're going to start getting paid. So to have that financial backing, it's that bit of a comfort. So you can go, well, I've got that money coming in here from the support from the agency UK. So it allows me to, I suppose, sleep better at night, and also be able to go out and prospect and actually go out and win that business. So it's not permanently worried it in the back of your mind.
Sorry to jump in there as well. I think the people that I was speaking to within the network, be that the people at the top of the chain or be that people that are there on the ground working, they all seem to have a plan as well. And again, I've talked about a plan and having a kind of being quite methodical about what I do. But I spoke to some of the other brokerages. It was a case of they sold you the dream of setting up your own business, but what from there? Whereas Steph said to me and Andy said to me and a few other people that I spoke to within the community sort of said, well, again, do these 2 or 3 things and do them consistently, and you can't not make a success. And I think that that feeling of they're not just saying, come and join us, they're saying, do these things and you will make a success, to have that kind of bit of a plan. And then again, it's talking to people on the ground who are actually there doing it. It's all very well the kind of the owners, the directors saying, come and join us. But I was lucky enough to pick up the phone to a few people who were working within the network, and they just talked sense. They're just good people, hardworking people, and they seemed to know what they were talking about. And that for me was kind of quite inspiring, having spoken to a few other agents working for some of the competitors. And I think, you don't know what you're doing. You've got no plan. You've got no idea what's moving forward. You don't even know how much it costs you to run your business on a day-to-day basis. And then that gave me the confidence to think, you know what, these guys know what they're talking about. There's some really good, high caliber people in that group. Now it's just down to me to say, am I brave enough to do it?
So let's talk through timescale. So how long did it take you from first picking up the phone to Steph and having a conversation and say, actually, Steph, can you tell me about TA UK?
Yep.
How long did it take between that and launching your first day?
You and I are probably quite similar in this.
I would think so. I mean, my sort of journey through into the self-employed role probably started back in COVID, where I found lots of other models texting me or messaging me on LinkedIn, trying to recruit me into the business. That's probably sort of what sort of pricked my interest in sort of the self-employed role. But as I said, I heard Steph on a podcast in January. We spoke in April. Probably happened quite quickly. It's quite weird for me to go, I'm going to do it. But I think if I don't do it now, I would never have done it. There's always that itch I had to scratch. And I thought, well, let's do it. I think the biggest thing for me, I had the support of my family right behind me. If they would have said, don't do it, I would never have done it. I told my wife, this is what I'm doing. She went, what a great idea. So, yeah, as I said before, I spoke to Steph on, I think it was Easter Friday, and I joined first week of July.
And I think for me, it was Steph had a bit of a battle trying to convince me to come on board. So it was probably over a 4 to 6 week period with me of several kind of conversations that lasted 45 minutes to an hour to kind of think, you need, again, I've got to take that plunge, but I'm someone that wants to go away and make a really informed decision on something rather than a rushed decision. And it goes back to what I was saying before. There was no pressure to have to join. It was a case of whatever questions you've got, come to me, let's have another chat in an evening, let's have another chat over Zoom, let's talk to a different voice within the group to try and think, what can we support you, what you need to do. So yeah, for me, it was kind of 3 or 4 conversations over probably a 4 to 6 week period.
Well, I think what was really important for myself, I looked at another model very, very closely, and the person I was speaking to there actually put me in contact with two other partners or 2 other agents, and they were like chalk and cheese. I thought, why are you telling me to speak to this guy? We don't have the same backgrounds, ethos, those types of things, backgrounds. Steph said, speak to Tom, and he was, very calm, very patient. I spoke to Nick as well, and they were never. Again, there was no pressure from themselves. And I thought, well, Steph has sort of cherry-picked these people for me to speak to answer any more concerns I might have, where this other model, I was just like, came off the phone, I was like, well, that was a waste of time. Just didn't fill me with any confidence or desire or passion to join it. Whereas after speaking to, I think, the right partners with my concerns, it made my decision a lot easier.
So Steph was going through a Rolodex saying, right, who's a Liverpool fan? Who can we line down up with?
Yeah.
So since you guys have launched, obviously the agency UK have brought out the 30% on instruction commission model.
Yep.
Do you think that would help you going back in time, obviously a few years or so for yourselves? Do you think that would have helped you and made you that decision a little bit easier for yourself to launch your own business?
Massively for me, because I think cash flow is the biggest concern. I think there's two concerns, isn't there, when you think about going from employed to self-employed? One is cash flow and the other is lead generation. And I think to have the opportunity to start earning some money quite quickly up front, I think that's a massive bonus. Something I said before in a previous podcast that I've done, it took me seven months to earn my first pay slip. So for the first 7 months of running my business, I was living off savings. So to have that opportunity to earn 30% upfront reasonably quickly, then again, you can focus your energy on going to win business, going to sell houses, rather than thinking, where's my next pay slip coming from? And I think there are things out there to support you with lead generation as well on the second point.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's a massive game changer. It sets you up from day one to go, I don't have to sell the home and wait 3-4 months for the paycheck. I can start earning as soon as I start listing a property. And it is just that comfort, and it's just a lot easier to sleep at night, knowing that you get the listing and you've got a little bit of that commission coming in straight away.
I find that sometimes there's almost like a panic cycle that comes in. So people are worried about listing their first property and getting that money through. So they just go, I'll do it for anything. I'll take it for any fee, any house, any vendor, because I just need some money coming. But I don't care if it's 1%, £1,000, £2,000, whatever the number. Do you feel like that takes some of that pressure away to actually go, you've got a little bit of breathing space there, so you can kind of charge your worth and not worry quite so much you would be if you're kind of seeing your savings just depleting very quickly?
Correct. I think with this extra 30%, I think it's that incentive, isn't it, to actually go out and list, but I think the right properties at the right fee. Because you think if I get a higher fee and I'm getting 30% of that, I will try and get, if I can get 30% of 2% rather than the 1% fee, I think it will help you sharpen your pencil definitely and go, I'm going to be even more focused to get this listing.
I think it's really easy just to monetize it as well, isn't it? If you say to somebody, realistically, within your first 14 days of joining, if you can sign one house up and you can earn yourself £1,000 by the end of the month,
correct, then
that's very easy to think, well, that £1,000 covers my mortgage for this month, or pays the food bill and pays for the car. And it's much easier to kind of see that, okay, I'm not looking at 6 months or 7 months or 8 months before I get paid. I'm getting paid month one, almost week one, if you pick up that listing that quickly.
So why don't you think that all other brokerages offer that to their self-employed models?
I think they will do in due course once they kind of cotton on to the idea that it's working successfully. I guess there's a risk element from the group as well, isn't there? That if you're paying people up front, then the risk is that never sells. So there's got to be some kind of parameters put in there to make sure that risk is mitigated. But again, it's like anything in agency, isn't it? It's risk versus reward.
I'm not sure about that, because if you've got the commission coming in, if you can then sell it again, you've got that even more commission coming in. So I don't. Oh yeah, let's list it. It's worth 500. Let's list it at 600, 650 just to get that 30%. I still think if you can. I don't think that would happen, actually. I think you'd still get it at the right price to sort of list it.
It goes back to that thing about recruiting the right people rather than volume again, isn't it? Is get people that are on the same wavelength as you, who can kind of see that short-term upfront commission helps with cash flow, but still the money's at the end of the transaction and getting that sold and getting it through to completion.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with that. I think if you get the right people on board who are motivated to sell the properties, it's a massive game changer on that side. What we don't want to do is have people come on board who just think, I'll just get an old bit of property on the market. I'll take my £1,000, and if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So there's a lot of, I wouldn't say pressure, but responsibility from the agency UK to make sure they get quality people on board to work with them, because they want completions. They don't just want listings, they want completions. Thank you very much.
And again, that goes back to that, what I think we've both said to start off with. One of the attractions for us of joining was it's about the right people rather than the volume of people. And again, I think anyone within the network, they've been bought in because they're the right person for our brand. If they're not the right person, then good luck, let them go elsewhere.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like me when I'm listing houses. You can afford to be a bit selective about who you work with. And I think that's something that we've done quite well as a group.
Yeah, definitely.
So if anybody who's sat listening to this, watching at home, for example, is sort of on the fence about being self-employed, what sort of steps do you think they should take next?
Quite simple. Pick up the phone and give us a call. We've all been sat on the fence. Well, there's probably going to be agents out there sat on the fence now. Should I do it? Should I not? But we don't bite. Pick up the phone. We'll have an honest, open conversation with you, and we'll get a good feeling whether you're the right person for us or not. As Tom said, it's all about bringing the right partners in. When I was on my onboarding, the amount of experience that was in the room is just absolutely extraordinary. Pick up the phone and call us, and contact Steph and give us a call. Definitely.
I think going off on a slight tangent from that, but what have you got to lose? There's hundreds of agency jobs out there. If you try it for 6 months and it doesn't work, then fine, go back to an employed role. There's plenty of them out there. But I think those that have been brave enough to kind of take the plunge have seen real kind of lifestyle changes to them, real difference in their earnings.
So final question, slightly weighted because I know what the answer is going to be. Do you guys regret going self-employed?
No.
Absolutely not. No,
definitely not.
Yeah, what a surprise. And on that bombshell, guys, thank you so much for making time today. It's been very appreciated.
Thank you.
Cheers.